Hello, everyone, and welcome now to week 3 of English 102. So, for our first class, what I had you do is read about different ways that we can understand arguments, how they work, how they operate. This last week, I had you read about Toulmin and Toulmin's system of trying to understand argumentation. I also then had you do some exercises to practice and see the extent to which you understood Toulmin or you could develop Toulmin's argument on specific premises. Also, I had you think about a possible thing you would want to write on for your essay. This week, your rough draft for your Toulmin argument will be due. So, what I'm mainly going to focus on today is making sure that you understand Toulmin and then also that you understand what this assignment is asking for. So, let's first look at the syllabus real quick to see where we're at.
All right, so right now we are on week 3, which says practicing Toulmin and effectively using evidence. So today what I'm going to do is talk about Toulmin. I'm also going to talk a little bit about when you write your Toulmin argument, ways to think about using evidence effectively to bolster your argument. For homework this week, what I'm going to have you do is turn in your rough draft for your Toulmin argument due at midnight, 12 a.m., September 6th. I will go over more details about this in a bit. But yeah, there won't be any reading for this week. All you'll be needing to do is concentrate on creating a rough draft for your Toulmin argument. And then next week we will go into peer review, and then your final Toulmin argument will be due. Now, you've already read about Toulmin, but before we proceed forward, I just wanted to make sure everyone understood the specific parts to what Toulmin argumentation is. There was a lot of information in the last reading, so I thought it would be worthwhile to clarify. Now, this PowerPoint I'm going to go through, I'm going to move through very quickly. It is available on Blackboard, so you can look over it again if you'd like to, and I'll show you where that is in a bit. So basically, the Toulmin method of argumentation, if you want to know a little bit about Stephen Toulmin, who's a British philosopher, and he really wanted to look at a way to analyze arguments in a way that was logical, to where you could dissect them and make sense of them and understand the validity to a larger argument. There's 4 basic elements to it. A claim, which will have a reason, or maybe reasons. The grounds, which will be the proof, the data, the support, or the evidence for the reasons and the claim. And a warrant, which can be tricky to locate, but it is a logical and persuasive connection between the grounds and the claim. So claims, essentially a claim is just what you're trying to argue, right? And a claim could be all sorts of things. This one gives an example of Rosario is an American citizen because she was born in the United States, right? The other one is because the groundhog saw his shadow, there will be 6 more weeks of winter. So basically, anything you're arguing is the claim. That's the main thrust of it. So the grounds or the proof, they refer to proof or evidence an arguer offers. This is primarily meant for, I'm going to go back to claims here, the reason that you provide. So for example, if I said Rosario was an American citizen because she was born in the United States, the grounds I might provide for that might be data, like census data that would show that she was born in the United States. Maybe it would produce her birth certificate. Maybe there would be testimony from her family. All those things would be evidence or proof supporting the larger reason that she was born in the United States. But yeah, so grounds can consist of statistics, quotations, reports, finding, physical evidence, or various forms of reasoning. So here's something to consider as you're moving forward with writing your Toulmin argument, is I would like you to do your best when you're providing grounds to find grounds that seem substantial. So that could be expert testimony, it could be statistics or data. Now, sometimes grounds can be something that might be anecdotal, like a personal story. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but refrain from doing this for all of your grounds, because if you just have personal testimony throughout that, although it might have a good personal feel to it and it might have a good sort of overarching argument, I want you to try to pull in various forms. So if you can find quotations, reports, statistics, that sort of thing, that will be very helpful. Yeah, a little bit more on grounds, facts, statistics, reports, physical proof, source credibility. So like I said, authorities, experts, those sorts of things. Analysis or reasoning. Yeah, that comes into account too as one of the major things. Oh, if you're looking for how you can identify grounds or how you can establish grounds, words like because, since, and given that will help you identify that. I would also suggest that you think of these phrases when you are establishing your own grounds. So, an example, airport should x-ray all luggage because a bomb could be placed in checked baggage, right? Warrants. Okay, warrants are tricky, but essentially warrants are the underlying assumption that connects the claim to the reason, and it's often unstated. So the warrant is an inferential leap that connects the grounds with the claim. Assumptions is something taken for granted. Supposition, it is often a belief or value that is usually unexamined by the person who holds it. So here's the thing. Once you understand and establish what the warrant is, if your reader already agrees with the warrant, or the audience does, you probably don't need to, in your argument, then provide backing for the warrant. But it's a good idea just in case, because not all readers will necessarily agree with your warrant, to consider ways of justifying the warrant, and so you would provide backing. Okay, so let's look at an example here. Let's say my claim was that Juno is a wonderful movie, and then the main reason or grounds I provided was it was nominated for 4 Academy Awards. Now we could have a word that might connect this, that Juno is a wonderful movie because it was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, right? So then what I might do for my argument is describe the Academy Awards it was nominated for. I could also describe which ones it won, if it won any. I could also talk about how winning a specific Academy Award or being nominated for one shows what a wonderful film it was. Maybe it was nominated for Best Cinematography. And so I could argue about how great the cinematography was, have some movie critic talk about it. There's a lot of different ways I could provide grounds. Now, here's something to consider, though, and this is where the warrant is difficult. If I was to say Juno is a wonderful movie because it was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, there's an implicit assumption that because something is nominated for an Academy Award or awards, that's what makes it a great movie. So that's my warrant, right? Unstated, a movie's greatness can be measured in the number of Oscar nominations it receives. But here's the thing. What if my audience doesn't agree with my warrant? Someone might easily say, I think the Academy Awards are not a measure of a movie's quality. It's just a bunch of really pretentious critics who are out of touch with mainstream audiences, right? So if that was the case, if my audience didn't agree with my warrant, I would then need to provide backing for my warrant, and that would take the form of evidence or proof, right? The backing would, that Academy Awards make a great film. Qualifiers, which basically just mean words and phrases that place limits on claims. This is something that oftentimes when you have qualifiers, they make you come across as fairer in your argumentation. And they also can help you avoid sounding like you have absolutist claims that people might argue against. Let me give you an example. Oh, well, here's some examples of the words you can use. So usually, sometimes, in most cases, often, few, many, it's possible, perhaps, things of that sort. So let's say I have a claim where I say people who don't go to college earn less than those who do. Well, I might look at this claim and think there's actually a lot of people who don't go to college and make more money than those with college degrees. Bill Gates, for one. Also, I could argue and say, well, there's a lot of people that because they go to college have huge student debts who won't be able to pay those off, and that perhaps not going to college will render someone with a viable job that gives them a good outcome later in life with their income. So this could be helped a lot if I just had a simple qualifier. So I might say instead, in most cases, people who don't go to college earn less than those who do. Now, my argument is a bit more fair, and readers might be able to take it in more easily. A rebuttal, when you're writing this Toulmin argument, I just want you to think of one rebuttal that someone might have. Now, it could be a rebuttal of your grounds. Maybe someone could dispute your evidence. Maybe it could be someone disputing your warrant. It could be a number of things. But I just want you to provide at least one and then respond to it with either a concession or you can actually counter that rebuttal. So the rebuttal is where the author addresses the audience opposing viewpoints or possible objections in order to strengthen his or her argument. Yes, sometimes the rebuttal will be directed to opposing claims. Other times it will be directed at alternative interpretations of evidence or new evidence. To give you a clearer sense of how Toulmin works, I'm going to go over one of the examples you worked through in your homework. Just one, because we don't have time to go through all of them. But let's look at the first one that you had to sort through. Professor Murphy is an outstanding teacher because she generously spends so much time outside of class counseling students with problems. Okay, so claim and reasons right here, pretty straightforward. They're actually written into this sentence. The claim, Professor Murphy is an outstanding teacher. The because kind of distinguishes where the reason will be. She generously spends so much time outside of class counseling students with problems. Okay, so for my evidence, or I might also call this kind of my grounds, what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to establish that she spends so much time out of class counseling students with problems. So maybe I would have testimony from students, administrators, other teachers, and staff about how she spends so much time outside class counseling students. Maybe if there's some way I could find records, I'm not sure how I would, but if I was able to, for how much time she spends outside of class helping students, who knows, there could be a letter of recommendation, a newspaper article, or other things that talk about what a great teacher she is and how much time she spends outside of class helping problem students. I might even compare other teachers and say, most teachers at her school only spend this much amount of time. However, she spends this much amount of time, so she distinguishes herself as a great teacher. Okay, so the warrant, what is the underlying assumption in all of this? The underlying assumption is that what makes an outstanding teacher is completely, or at least partially, their ability to spend time outside of class counseling students with problems. So what makes an outstanding teacher is often how well they counsel students outside of class. I put often in highlights because that's a qualifier. So if that's my warrant and my audience agrees with me, then I don't have to provide backing. But if they didn't, what I might do is I would want to establish why this warrant is valid. Maybe I could give expert testimony about how much counseling problem children can help with their success. Maybe I could find statistics about how counseling from teachers improves student lives and the overall well-being of a teacher's classroom. However, someone might look at this warrant right here and say, actually, there's a lot of other things that make an outstanding teacher. What if the teacher is a horrible teacher, but they counsel kids outside of class? There's other things, like do they actually help students learn during class time? Other things I might say that might be more important are their experience or their ability to communicate to all students. Right here I have usually as a qualifier. So that's one example right there.